Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Monday. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of my babies from 2022, and I thought we could also spice it up a little bit rather than me just giving you a hatchling update. Hopefully I can turn this into something semi-educational. So I wanted to show you 12 geckos today. We're going to look at them, we're going to talk a little bit about them, how I think they're going to progress, and then if I would personally keep them at this point or if I would maybe sell them off. Now, personally, I keep all my geckos for 6 months to a year, but I can understand a lot of people sell their geckos at, 3 to, let's say, 8 grams and they get rid of them. So I'm going to give you some, hopefully, tips, some things you can look for on your own geckos using my geckos to hopefully help you make an educated guess on whether a gecko is going to be really nice or it's going to be kind of So we're going to fly blind here. We're not going to show any parents because obviously your geckos are going to be different than mine. But we're just going to talk about pattern, shapes, and colors and things like that. And some things you can look for. So without further ado, let's jump into it with our first gecko here. Gecko number 1. This is starting off strong. We're starting with a lily white here. Now, something I'm going to mention throughout this video is pattern shape. I don't know if there's a better term for it or not. But when I look at certain geckos, I can usually tell whether or not the pattern is going to spread or not. And on this lily white here, I can tell it's definitely going to spread up the dorsal, up towards the dorsal, up from the laterals and on the sides and on the legs. As far as base color goes, where it's at right now is medium brown. I'm guessing it's going to get a little bit darker or possibly stay that medium brown. If you had a bunch of lily whites to choose from, maybe this one wouldn't stay, but you can see that it's already reaching up towards the dorsal and it's got a nice coverage on its legs, pretty good head structure. So this one's definitely a keep for me. And we're going to remember the pattern structure on the lily white here because we're going to come back to another one later. Up next, we have another gecko here. This is a more average looking gecko that you might get. This one has decent pattern on the sides, not really super great. It's more like flame level, some nice white spots, but at this size, and I should mention all these geckos we're going to look at are under 4 grams. This one would be personally a Yeet for me. This is gecko number 2. It's got some nice white spots, but I'm guessing this is just going to be an average looking harlequin as it gets bigger. So I don't think this one's ever going to turn into anything too crazy. So I would probably Yeet this little guy. Next up, gecko number 3 is this little tiny extreme harlequin. Now, obviously, since I know what all the parents look like to these geckos we're taking a look at today, I'm kind of biased and because I can kind of tell what they're going to turn out to be. But if you had a gecko like this, an average looking extreme harlequin baby, you might want to hold on to it. I've seen some pretty amazing extreme harlequin progressions over the years, but I've also seen some that are pretty lackluster. For this particular gecko, the pattern shape I'm guessing is going to stay about the same. It'll spread a little bit. And since this one is the offspring of 2 pretty nice geckos, I'm guessing the cream is really going to come out in this one. Not super crazy or anything, just a little bit. But as far as base colors go, I'm guessing it's going to be a darkish brown color as it gets older. I don't think it'll ever be a black-based animal, but still a pretty nice gecko nonetheless. This is gecko number 3. I'm going to say we put this one in the keep pile for now. Gecko number 4 is again another extreme harlequin from the same pairing that we just looked at. This one is very similar to the last one, a little bit more pattern, although it is slightly bigger. Again, same things that I mentioned with last one. I'm going to put this one in the keep pile. This is gecko number 4. As far as base colors go, this one's probably going to be about the same, dark brownish, not a black-based animal. If you have a lot of extreme harlequins, these two are about on par as similar animals. So if you have a lot of them and you need to get rid of some, the things I really look for is cream and then how far it is reaching up towards the back. If it's touching the dorsal as a baby this size, then that's probably going to be a very nice extreme harlequin. If you have one like this, it might progress that way, it might not. It's kind of hard to say with the extremes, especially if you don't know your animals. But like this one I can tell is going to be pretty nice. The other one's going to be pretty nice too. So we'll hold on to them and just hold them back and see what they look like. Gecko number 5 here is another kind of little flamey looking thing. This one was from a red pairing. But if I didn't know that, I would say it's probably not going to be red. And even though I know that, I'm going to also say it's probably not going to be red. I don't think it'll ever be an extreme harlequin. It's not a perfect pinstripe. It has some nice little cream spots coming in on the sides, but I don't think this is ever going to be a super crazy animal. So I would probably Yeet this one as well. I don't think the chances of it turning red are too high just by looking at the base color right now. It's kind of a brownish color. So I'm going to say this one won't be red, and I'm going to say this was a good Yeet. Gecko number 6 is this cute little lily white here. You can see that this one has a nice solid dorsal, kind of a lightish brown base color. Now this one might throw me for a loop. Generally saying, I would say that this one is a Yeet, just because from the pattern shape I can tell that it's not going to spread a lot. I know that sounds funny, but I can really tell by looking at lily whites. You can kind of see how it's got the thick line around near its stomach. When they have the really thick line like that and there's no pattern reaching up, generally they don't ever turn into super high coverage animals. If they have more of an extreme harlequin looking pattern, then they can, but a lot of the lily whites have this where they have that kind of thick bar, and that's about it. The majority of those, I would say, never really spread up to the dorsal all the way. Yeah, they spread up a little bit more, but never anything super crazy. Now this one might throw me for an oddball. I think this one might be red in the future. It's hard to say since it's smaller, but it has that kind of tan color, but I'm going to say probably not red. I would say keep this one as a maybe, number 6. Gecko number 7 is a very nice extreme harlequin. You can see this is exactly what I would look for. Good head structure, good cream coming in. Even though it's about the same level of pattern as some of the other ones we looked at, you can really see on the sides of this gecko that the cream's really forming. There might even be some white in there eventually. And so this is one I would definitely keep. This is Gecko 7. This one's going to be nice. Trust me, this one's going to be really nice, especially as it gets older. That cream is really going to spread and really grow. And this one's going to be a stunner animal. It would be silly to let this one go compared to the other ones that we already held back. So if you were to keep one out of the other 2 that we looked at, keep this one and sell your other 2. This one's going to be a really nice animal. Now, I couldn't show you my 2022 hatchlings, of course, without showing you a red phantom. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Red phantoms are very hard to tell which ones are going to be nice when they're little and which ones are not going to be nice. There is a couple things that I look for. So this little guy is number 8. You can see the head structure on him is great. But red phantoms all hatch out kind of a dark brown color. And they either turn lighter as they get older. Like I'm talking older as in like 5 to 8 grams, 5 to 10 grams. Usually the ones that are a lighter tan tend to be brighter red is what I found. However, you can get some that are dark brown and stay dark brown, but then turn really dark red. So it's very, very hard to distinguish. This one right here is hard to say. It'll be red, but is it going to be a super bright red, medium red? It's really hard to tell. So even though I love my phantoms, the one annoying thing about them is it's hard to tell whether or not they're going to be red. If you looked at this guy right now and I told you he'd be red, you'd be laughing at me. But trust me, when we come back to this one and number 9 here, I think we're going to have some really stunning red animals. These both have a good shade of brown. They're not super dark. So I have a feeling these will both be a nice red. If they're really brown, if your phantoms are really, really brown, like, I don't know how to explain this without using the word brown more, but they're probably going to be darkish brown, poopy colored, muddy based animals. These ones are more of a tan, this one more so than the last one we looked at. So these ones are going to be a nice red color going into the future, but we'll see. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, and you can comment down below when we make my next video in a couple months. But these are going to be some nice red phantoms, trust me. Gecko number 10 here is also kind of one that might throw me off. This is from a red on red pairing. He's 100% het phantom. Now let's talk a little bit about red bases like we were just looking at those phantoms. You can see this one has a pretty dark base color right now. Both the parents were red though. So will it turn red or will it stay muddy? That is the question. Generally on an animal like this, if you were breeding reds together, I would say that this one will never be a bright red. Because what I've really noticed is that light tan color, the lighter their base color is, if they're, from red parents, it seems the brighter red they are. If they have, the darker it is, usually they're either darker red or muddy based. So this one I would say is going to be a muddy based animal. And that's kind of unfortunate, even though it has the nice white spots, not the full pin, but this one could really surprise me and turn around and become a really nice red base. We'll just have to wait and see. That is Gecko number 10. I would keep both of the red phantoms and this one as well. Moving on to gecko number 11. This is a gecko that, again, is kind of just a harlequin. You can see it doesn't have a whole lot of pattern right now. And even though I've seen some progressions on Facebook where animals like this really blossom and turn into super crazy high patterned animals, chances are your geckos probably won't do that unless you really know your animals well. I would say this one might get some cream in it, nice little pattern going on, but it's never going to be a full coverage extreme harlequin. I would definitely yeet this one if I didn't have the option of growing them all up. I don't think this one is going to be anything spectacular, probably a dark brown base, but still a pretty cool looking animal. Moving on to our last gecko of the day, we have another harlequin, except this one, compared to the last one, has a lot of cream. You can see on the lower, near its belly, it has a lot of cream coming up and a little bit of white in there as well. This is one I would definitely keep over the last one, just because even though the pattern isn't there, the color is, or the possible color and pattern is. So I would definitely hold on to this one compared to the last one. This is gecko number 12. So hopefully this video was semi-helpful to you. Even though we're looking at my geckos, and obviously my geckos are going to be different than your geckos, there is some obviously general things to look for. Cream's a good one. If your gecko has cream, I would definitely keep it. It could expand a lot. If it has any pattern, it can always, grow and continue to grow. But if it's a flame, chances are it's not going to be an extreme harlequin. If you're breeding a lot of red geckos, I definitely recommend keeping them to at least, let's say, 15 grams, maybe 20 if you can, just because a lot of reds really blossom right around the, I would say 12 to 30 gram range is when they're going to be the brightest red. And then from there, they'll tone down a little bit as they get even older. But if in that range, they're a nice red, then I would definitely keep them. If your gecko is, say, 20 grams and it's not red, chances are it's never going to be red. And so then I would yeet it. But hopefully this was kind of cool. Let me know down below in the comments if you like this better than me just showing you my geckos and saying, well, this is what I got for 2022. As far as the 2022 breeding season goes for me, I'm having a pretty good year, actually. I'm up to, I think, around 30 to 40 hatchlings, and I got maybe 50 eggs in the incubator left. So we're going to be around 100 geckos, give or take. And I got a lot of nice reds on the way, a lot of nice phantoms on the way. And this is going to be really the last year for me of producing a lot of dark extreme stuff, or at least trying to produce dark extreme stuff. From here on out, even though you'll see these geckos for sale next year, if you remember, I'm always selling geckos from the previous year. So like the geckos for sale this year were from 2021, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm really moving towards producing a lot of reds, especially red phantoms, because that's what I get the most comments on. Sam, are you going to have, red geckos available? So I'm always working towards producing more of those. This will be no exception. I didn't go full blown this year, but I do have more coming out since I did not produce any last year. So keep that in mind. But anyway, hopefully this was somewhat fun. I will have more cool videos coming out in the future, some really nice things that I've been working on. So be on the lookout for that. And with that being said, hope to see you guys in my next video. Well, I guess since you're still watching this video, if you're in the market for a gecko, you must like my channel enough to sit through 10 seconds of black screen. So if you use the code YouTube, all caps, at checkout on my website, you can save 30% on any of the geckos I have available right now. Let's keep that a little secret though. Don't put that in the comments. I just want to see how many people have watched 10 seconds of blackness just to get this code. Anyway, thank you guys for a great year, and I will see you in my next video.